What's going on, my beautiful people from YouTube? Let's talk about ScPrime. Yes, I just had a video on ScPrime, but today we're going to cover three different things. First, where it came from. I know some of you might know about SiaCoin. They are kind of related, and I want to explain to you how. Secondly, I want to go over the interview. Well, not go over, but show you an interview. I spent quite a bit of time talking with the founder of ScPrime, and I want you guys to hear it. I mean, basically sit there, listen to us having a conversation and go, oh, wow, that's really cool. That's what I think is going to happen in my head, but pretty sure it's going to happen. Lastly, numbers. How this project can earn you over 100 grand a year, and you can get your money back for purchasing a unit within 7 days. I'll show you my math. It's the potential. Again, it's not where we are right now because it's still in testnet. But if you want to get ready for mainnet, you want to make sure you're moving now. Again, not financial advice, always sharing with you guys the stuff that I'm doing myself. So let's get right into it. This is how we get into it. Smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. And last video, I actually told you guys to comment down below and include passive income in your comments. That actually went a long way for an NFT, and I'll draw that at the end of the video. So thank you so much for that. If you guys wouldn't mind leaving a comment down below, it does go a long way into getting this video viewed by even more people. And keyword, let's use a keyword, that way I can do a drawing in this one too. Storage. Let's say storage. Anything you guys put in, as long as it's got the word storage, I'll make sure to do a drawing. All right, here we go. Sia, point number one. Well, Sia's been around for like 7 years. They've been around for a long time. However, they aren't everything that people want them to be. Look at this. So 5.2 petabytes. That's not very much. Only 616 storage providers. It's almost like it's shrinking, not growing. And there's a reason for this. And there's a reason why, ScPrime is doing things the way they're doing. They are sort of a fork from Sia. They're not necessarily, just on the Sia platform. They're actually their own blockchain, but they did start out with kind of what Sia was doing. That's where they kind of, basically initialized. But here's what's going on with Sia. I don't know how you guys feel about this. I'm not a huge fan. Like, don't create software and call it Skynet, because that just feels awkward and like people are spying on you. I don't know who in their marketing department said that's going to be a great idea. Let's call it Skynet. I know, not cool, not a good idea, guys. Just saying. I like what they're doing. At the end of the day, like, I'm not here to trash Sia. I like the fact that they're focusing on Web 3.0, but people aren't ready. People just aren't ready for Web 3.0, and the numbers show. So if you take a look at CoinMarket Cap, you'll see that Sia is trading at a penny and a half, and they've had some ups and downs. So this year to date, like their highest. Oh, I can actually see year to date up here. So a little drop down. Yeah, so they went as high as 6 cents in the last year, and the low is not very good, but this is where we sit at today, and this is the chart. So you can see that in January they started picking up. You get that little bull market going. Oh yeah, things are amazing. And between that March and April timeframe, then May came crashing down on everything, and now we're sitting here not looking too pretty. Like I said, I don't dislike what Sia is doing. I just don't think that people are ready for it yet, and which is why I like what ScPrime is doing. Right now, it's down 2.75% in comparison to the rest of the market. That's down like a whole lot more. But take a look at the year chart. So, like everybody else, they had a little bit of a peak here beginning in January. Then they came down and they stayed down for a while. Now, starting in September, they started kicking things off, and actually people started finding out about what they're doing and getting involved. Right now, the coin is sitting at 63 cents, 63 and a half cents. So let's just call that 64 cents. I see it going further up. Again, this is not financial advice by any stretch of the imagination. This is just me going, I love the idea behind this, and the potential here is endless. So although this thing started from SiaCoin, it is so much different because of their focus and what they're actually looking to do with the project. Let's keep going. So this is the website for ScPrime, and I showed you, that Sia was sitting at how much again? I actually got to look back because I can't remember that. There we go, 5.2. Right now, if you go to ScPrime, they are already at 10.3 and growing. and growing, and it's going to grow quick. And you can see that their usage is now at 327 terabytes. It's not even live yet. That's the thing that you guys need to realize. The network usage, it's not even running yet. This is going to start in January, is really the kickoff of things. So right now they're just prepping, and people are loading up their hard drives and getting ready to share, right? Because that's how you earn. Now, when I'm looking at projects, there's all kinds of people out there. And if we go to the About and we go to Team here, you're going to see this guy here, Kenneth Scott Bell. And he doesn't call himself, the founder, the CEO, or anything like that on here. He just says he's a team lead. And it totally looks like he put this shirt on just for that picture. And why do I say that? I'll show you why. Because when you click on his LinkedIn, this is what you get. Some dude with a workbench in the back. I love seeing stuff like this because it tells me this guy is not like, oh, some suit that's just, trying to make money off of other people's back. This guy is actually doing the work. And I will preface this interview portion by saying that I had a really good chit chat with him right before I started the interview, just getting to know where he came from. We've had a lot of similar backgrounds. I know the stuff that he's worked on in the past. Not only that, he understands storage, and he understands the storage needs of the world just because of what he's been involved in. So this is not some kind of project to go, oh yeah, I know that there's a lot of money to be made on here. No, the way he's looking at it is that he saw a need that he's tried to fulfill in the past, and all of a sudden it's like, blockchain is the answer. Let's do this. And he did a lot to get to where the project is at right now. He sacrificed a lot, but I believe that it's paying off, and paying off big. And I mean, I can show you guys the numbers in just a minute, but in a minute, I want to make sure you guys get to watch this interview. So if you're watching this might be a good idea to maybe keep it in the background. Might want to watch this multiple times. Let it run. Because he says a lot of good stuff, and I'm going to cut to it right now. Without further ado, here's the founder of ScPrime. Kenneth, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk a little bit about your product, which is a product, right? I do have this right. It's a product.
Yeah, it's a product. Happy to be here with you.
So tell me a little bit more, not only about it, but the why, because I think that's what it's missing sometimes. And when you're talking about different projects, different mining projects specifically, it's why does it exist in the first place? And we'll go into a little bit more of the approach and how you're doing it, but why the way you're doing it? Like, why come up with ScPrime?
Well, I think there's two answers to that. I'll cover one really quickly, and then I'll get into what the real answer is. The project sort of started by accident, to be frank. A bunch of us were hanging out in another project's community, and we got involved with some political stuff that was going on, and some things that we didn't agree with. We made some proposals to try and write things there, but the governance there was essentially all one person. And ultimately what ended up happening was they made a decision that was going to strand a lot of ASIC mining hash rate, and it was expensive hash rate. And so we figured, well, we can take advantage of that. We didn't really have an idea for a product or project at that point, but we knew we wanted to sort of take care of folks that had put a lot of money into and including us, who would put money into this mining equipment and so forth. We were all big miners back in those days. This is 2017, 2018. And the deal is that once we kind of launched it and we started looking at, well, what is our vision? That's when we really kind of moved into the product sort of thing. And it's really taken on a life of its own. Everybody in sort of the founding roles in our project come from sort of media production backgrounds. One of our IT lead worked directly for Peter Jackson, the guy who did the Lord of the Rings movies down in New Zealand. I've been in the video production space and the video production hardware space for a couple decades. Video streaming, video production, live television type production, that kind of stuff, and all of that stuff uses storage, and it uses
a lot of
storage, in a big way. And the neat example that I like to use a lot is that when you go from like HD to 4K, it's not a doubling, right? It's 4xing the amount of data. And if you go from 4K to 8K, again, it's not a doubling, it's 16x, right? So what ends up happening is the amount of storage that's going to be needed over the next, say, 20, 30 years is just going to be crazy. I mean, it's already at globally something like 45, 50 zettabytes, which is just this incredibly unfathomable number. But the hockey stick hasn't even started to tilt up. And over the next 2 decades, we see that really being the case. So why do it with crypto or blockchain or any of that sort of stuff is really the question you have to answer. And I think, to be frank, in our view, unless you're trying to be money like, Bitcoin or Ethereum, there's not a lot of things where blockchain makes the most sense. I mean, it can make sense and it can work, but it's not necessarily the right solution, for the job. But with storage, it's a little different, because with storage, there's actually some things happening right now that are really interesting that sort of skew directly to this whole decentralization, distribution, that kind of understanding. So, for instance, if you take a look at cloud storage in general right now, all these businesses are flowing all of their internal storage needs into the cloud in some way, shape, or form or another. And fortunately or unfortunately, what's happened is 3 companies have essentially monopolized that. One company is like 55% or better, Amazon, AWS. And hats off. I mean, they've done a great job. People don't leave Amazon because they don't like the service. They leave because it's too expensive. That's just the bottom line of it. And this is the thing that I think a lot of times, people in crypto and the Web3 people in specific, tend to sort of say, we need to throw everything out and start over fresh. And I kind of look at that and I say, well, who's actually calling for that? Who's looking for that right now? Because if AWS was doing so badly, wouldn't their stock be really weak and tanking? And every day you look at the stock market and AWS is one of those that's just going crazy, and it's because of how well they've done. The problem is that they have 72 data centers scattered around the planet, and when they sink a data center, it's $500 million, $600 million. They've got to get tax breaks. They've got to, kind of tear up the environment a little bit. They put in all this expensive equipment. They put on high-tech staff that runs 24/7. They spend a lot of money on all that. And then this is the real crazy part. They have a PUE, which is sort of this power use, factor of 2x or better, which means that it costs more than twice as much just to cool the equipment as it does to run the equipment, right? Wow. Which is environmentally unfriendly as all get out. So what happens is those 72 data centers house all of this business, storage that's being sent up into the cloud. And you might be, 500, 1,000, 2,000 miles away from any one of those data centers. So the evolution that's been happening over the last, whatever it's been, 2 to 5 years in really, hyper speed is this sort of movement outward to what they call the edge. And so data is getting closer to the people that actually access it. And that's where blockchain comes in, because if you start thinking about, well, what's the radical edge? Well, the radical edge is everybody, you, me, everybody having storage in their domicile or in their business or anywhere that they are, and then ultimately having that data fed back in some secure method so that people can access it. And then you start to say, well, okay, so I'm going to have data in 287 countries. How does that work? Well, each individual data provider is a contractor. So suddenly smart contracts become a really important kind of a concept. And then if you look at what AWS has underneath for really a cost infrastructure, aside from building those, big things, it's going to be accountants, it's going to be lawyers, it's going to be bankers. And all of that stuff just goes away with blockchain, because we can pay these contractors on the smart contracts. And that huge cost disruption that we can bring to the table maybe as much as 80% off of what Amazon charges people is just insane.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
that's,
it's
go ahead.
incredible. No, it's just incredible. The idea of you're essentially decentralizing something that people think that can't be decentralized because we need AWS. And Greg from Akash, I spoke with him once, and he said the funniest thing in the world to me. It was like, don't tell me you're a decentralized, operation if you're hosted on AWS. It doesn't work that way. You can't claim to be something if you're really not. So I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that you can't. I mean, it is centralized in a lot of ways because everybody's going to the same people to try to get, to host their data. The cloud isn't, decentralized. The cloud is a place somewhere that somebody holds your data. And if it's AWS, it's definitely the most centralized that it can possibly be. And this decentralization just sounds like you're basically distributing that money that would have otherwise gone to a big tech firm. Is that right?
I think that's the interesting part of it, is that essentially now all of the people around the world can sort of, put this together in terms of a passive income sort of device. Put one of these miners, as we call it. They're not really working consensus in our blockchain, but they are extracting coins for providing storage over storage proofs. And the situation is that the people that actually end up in their jobs, using the storage, end up getting some back in this passive income model. And ultimately it becomes sort of this, self-fulfilling and self-running sort of thing. In our case, we've decided, or we've agreed, or we've sort of settled on this thing that our back end, the data center itself, the storage providers, the people that are earning that passive income, the blockchain, the smart contracts, all of that sort of stuff is a fully permissionless, fully decentralized area. Anybody can join the network. Anybody can put storage on. The software is open source and so forth. The part that is still going to start off a little bit centralized is the front end. And we see that across a number of different, the people that are in crypto right now, storage, file-based, all the people that are currently out there all have components that are somewhat centralized right now. And partially, I like to look at that and say it's not because we can't do a complete Web3 model right now, because we can. We've built a tool called the Relayer, which actually we could roll out tomorrow to businesses to be fully Web3, everything operating in a self-serve functionality and going forward. But we're convinced, we're literally convinced that the customers do not want that right now. The customers don't want to custody cryptocurrency. They don't want to deal with the volatility of cryptocurrency. They don't even, know if it's legal, right? I mean, in some states, you have to deal with whether you're actually dealing with something that's not even legal in your state. So what our Relayer does on our distributed network is it provides an IT admin a way to set up an instance to host storage and to access storage in our cloud with just a simple URL change. They essentially pull out Amazon and drop in our URL, and they're going to be in the same environment. Their accounting people pay fiat to us. They never deal with the crypto. They never have to worry about custody or losing the crypto. They never have to worry about the volatility underneath. If the price changes dramatically one day, doesn't change anything for them. They still pay with credit card, PO, whatever they normally do. And we think that we call this evolution then revolution, because what it means to us is they will pay and work in ways that they're right now currently working and comfortable with. And then they will slowly sort of evolve into that mode where they'll say, well, can we take over this part ourselves? Or can we have this part ourselves? And as we see the customers become more and more ready for it, that's when we'll start flipping the switches and make it more and more of a self-serve model where they end up handling it all themselves until they're finally ready to the point where we just cut the tether altogether and they go off, working directly with the coins, buying whatever Bitcoin or our coin and making that kind of work. So evolution then revolution. That's our tagline for this.
No, and I think that's a really good way to go about it, because at the end of the day, people don't want to change drastically. Like, to them, they just want to continue to do what they've known. It just makes that transition a lot easier. And if you're really looking for mass adoption, you can't just all of a sudden go, okay, you're going to use a brand new system. You're going to have to learn X, Y, and Z and do it now. Like that never works. So I think that this model is definitely a good way to go about it. But you're not the first to do this. Let's be honest. There's other people doing the same type of idea as far as hosting files for, in a decentralized manner. What makes your project unique?
Yeah, and I think in some ways, actually, so when we took the blockchain, so we forked another blockchain, and it's a proof of work blockchain, and there's a simple smart contract that runs over top. It's a state channel contract, and it's really very simplistic. It's almost like Bitcoin with a smart contract on it in a lot of ways. And we're not in an ecosystem. We're not in Ethereum or Solana or any of these other things. And so when we start talking about scaling and things like that, and those issues, because we're a very single purposed blockchain, and that layer one is permissionless and operating underneath just for this one application, we aren't going to hit a lot of those same types of scaling walls that other projects and it's like if a project is Ethereum based right now and they're providing decentralized storage to somebody, and somehow they have to actually pay their storage providers some money, but because the NFT guys have jacked the gas fees up to the moon, and all of a sudden it's too expensive for the project to figure out how to pay out some kind of incentive money or something along those lines. We just don't really see that as being a thing. So underneath, we have this proprietary L1, the blockchain that's running, and that's a big feature. But on top of it is where the real sort of secret sauce comes in. We've developed this tool called a relayer, which is in essence a distributed renter. And what that means is right now it's pretty easy to go out, FileCoin, Storage, any of these other projects, and you can grab their software and you can store your files in the cloud and the decentralized cloud, and buy some crypto and keep them up there for however long you want. What you can't really do in a really programmatic way is you can't like be an IT admin and set up an account and then provide access to 1,000 people in your corporation so that they can all access the same data set, so that they can all upload and download and modify and work on things like versioning, right? Which is very important, or even things like life cycling, or ACLs for permissions, or any of the type of stuff that they're used to doing in the cloud. And so this is the sort of the thing that we've developed with the relayer. It's called a distributed renter, and it allows that capability of multiple people accessing the same data set permissionlessly or permissioned, depending on what the IT admin wants to dole out in that company. And we are focusing on a B2B play. We're not really starting off looking to sell storage to individuals. It's primarily selling to business for backups and things like that. That's where all the data really lives. So that's the thing. And then on top of that, for the final piece, and this part kind of, I've noticed this, in Twitter specifically, this part gets people going. We're very much focusing on the S3 protocol. And the S3 protocol isn't really a protocol, so to speak. It's an ad hoc or a de facto protocol. AWS developed it. And what happened is over the course of the last decade, some tens of thousands of applications have been written around this protocol, and all these people are used to using it. They know how to use the apps that are on it and so forth. So we're walking into an ecosystem that we can just take advantage of all of these applications that are already built, and they're already compatible with our thing. And so what you see right now with a lot of these other projects is you see, these developer meetups and hackathons and all the various tools and things that they're trying to build, because they're essentially trying to throw out all the babies and all the bathwater and start everything over from scratch. And to us, that just doesn't make any sense. What makes sense is to give them access to this big, giant distributed data center we're building and give it to them on their terms.
It just sounds exhausting having to rebuild stuff. Like, I would not touch that with a 10-foot pole. It's like, I don't want to have to redo everything. I mean, I have a system that works for me. Can I just pay less for what I'm doing? Like, that sounds a lot better, you know? I mean, that's,
and not only that, but I mean, what happens is that, you know, when Amazon really set out to start the stuff, it didn't all work, right? It didn't all work perfectly.
sure.
And what do you think's going to happen now with all of the new stuff that's being developed and designed? You know, Rev 1 or Rev.1 or whatever. There's going to be issues and challenges. And look, corporations are already having, you know, first of all, they had to make a big decision to move everything from on-premise into the cloud. Security issues are scary as heck, you know, all of the stuff having to do with ransomware and all of the things that are going on out there. And so they've already had to make a pretty, you know, jeopardizing type, you know, decision. And now you're going to tell them, well, you know, we're just as good as AWS, even though, you know, our software was written by some kids and we're just getting started and we don't know if it all really works or not. And, you know, but we'll give you, you know, 3 or 4 months free so you can try it. I mean, okay, it's fine. And I think ultimately over the long term, Web3 will prevail. I'm totally convinced of it. I've been around networking long enough to understand what's coming. But same time, people they don't care if it's decentralized. They just want to know that it works.
Yeah, I think that's the most important part of it. It's, can my system stay operational, as opposed to, am I going to be decentralized? Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. You mentioned something really interesting that I think it kind of gets lost sometimes. So, I mean, the way I pay the rent is by actually running a marketing firm, and I run websites for multiple people, and I host a lot of data for a lot of people. And at the end of the day, I think it sounds like I would be your main target audience. I'm the guy you want to bring on board and say, "Hey, you got a bunch of people you're hosting stuff for? Bring it over to our platform." Does that sound right?
I think what happens there is that in the initial probably 1 to 3 quarters, and I should say that our product is going to be Exa Net Services. That's spelled XA Net Services. And we're expecting to launch that at the 1st of January, be the first week of January sometime. We're currently in beta trials right now. People are using it. In the first 1 to 3 quarters, I imagine what our target market focus is going to be is for backups. This is for, you know, computer administrators that need to back up VMs and workstations and servers and so forth off of a network. It's low-hanging fruit. It's also low cost storage. It's probably the stuff that has the least amount of profitability baked into it and so forth. But by the same token, it's something that we know that we can do, and we can do very well very quickly. But that said, as I hinted at or explicitly said, I guess, is we're fully S3 compatible. So every application that can currently run and operate against an AWS network can work on our network. So, like if you use WordPress, for example, there are plugins very, you know, easily available to you to backend all of your files on an S3 protocol network.
Yep.
So we can swap out there. What will end up happening over time is I think we'll find the business models that really skew to what we're doing. So I'll give you an example of that. Let's say you want to do some sort of CDN work, which maybe you do some live streams over the course of, you know, whenever. And what happens is if you're using AWS, you have to back that up with something like CloudFront in order to get a CDN capability. Well, with our software and blockchain and distributed network capability, both of those things actually can be tied into one sort of thing. In fact, they automatically are. Because your data, when you send it up to our network, your data starts out by getting chopped into multiple pieces. So if you send up, let's say, a terabyte of data, it gets chopped up into 30, 50, 80, 100 pieces. And we can change those numbers. It gets chopped up because of something called erasure coding. And what erasure coding does is it provides this really good redundancy. It makes the data so that lots of pieces, in other words, lots of these little things behind me could fail and you'd still be able to recover your data. In fact, one of the big things about our network is people will wonder about security and durability and so forth. But it's easily arguable that we are far more secure and far more durable than the centralized providers, because so many of these instances can go down and you still can recover your data. Well, to do this CDN capability, all we need to do is say, well, what if we were to put 30 shards of this data in Europe and 30 shards in North America and 30 shards in Asia? Well, all of a sudden, now you have a, ad hoc CDN, and you don't have to pay that big CloudFront bill or Cloudflare or
Yeah.
any of the big CDN networks, because
But
they
it's
do
not
charge a
even,
pretty good amount of
yeah,
money.
but it's not even ad hoc. It's exactly what they do. I mean,
It is.
It's the exact same thing. Like, I'm smiling. Like, the smile here is because I nerd out over this stuff all the time. I just never get a chance to talk to people about it. This is like incredible thinking about it. Like, at the end of the day, all you got to do is program in, like, hey, give me general IPs and figure out exactly what regions people are in, and say, hey, I want my data there. It's going to be viewed a lot in India, so you go ahead and set up for India nodes. That's what it sounds like, right? Like, that's all it is.
And the beautiful thing about that is right now we're in the network growth phase. We're building our data center, right? We're out there right now sinking our data center in the ground. And so what's happening is we're shipping these little devices all over the world, right? They're going to Australia, they're going to Europe, they're going to Asia, they're going everywhere. And the deal is that if we land some customers in some specific locale in the world, let's say customer has a corporation based in Singapore and they decide, to come aboard, but they look at the network map and they say, well, geez, you only have 2 or 3 providers in Singapore. What can we do? We'll just go out onto the AdWord key networks. We'll do some advertising in that area for these devices. We'll incentivize these devices with some extra crypto in order to make them really attractive to people in that area, and we'll spin up 300-400 providers right there in your backyard, and over the course of the next 1 to 5 years we'll cover the globe. And then by the time we get to that place where the hockey stick does turn up,
Yeah.
there won't be a place on earth where you won't have plenty of our passive income earners ready to accept your data and provide it back to you at very close proximity to where you are.
That's genius. That's such a good way to go about it. And it's a win-win all around. I mean, the people who are providing the storage, they get crypto. The people who want the storage, they are paying lower fees than they would otherwise, and they get wonderful benefits out of it. This is wonderful. You ready for a hard question though, Kenneth?
Go ahead.
This is the stuff that people don't usually ask. Like, what's your plan in making money? Like, is your goal to make money off of the storage? Is your plan to make money off of selling units? Like, what's the final goal?
Yeah, and so that's really the whole notion about being a product over being a project, and not trying to reinvent money and trying more to build something that people need to use. So with the relayer, the way it currently works right now, a customer will go ahead and sign up with us, on a storage contract. It works the same way as AWS, bill 30-day rolling. You give a credit card or a purchase order or whatever it is, and then you just keep re-upping as you need continued ongoing storage use. What's going to happen in the beginning is we'll be out there selling that storage, and we'll provide a markup on it, and that markup will be our profitability, which will fund the corporation. It'll be the development funding as well as the ongoing sales and marketing funding that we need to do. In fact, we're about to start organizing our first sort of coming out launch, which will happen at NAB in Las Vegas in April. And so that stuff costs money, and yeah, we'll be taking a cut above. And then underneath, what happens with our network, which is really interesting and really different, by the way, than what everybody else is doing out there. What we currently do is this. So anybody's going to be able to use our network, right? So if some other project came along and said, well, look, we really like that network, it's pretty big and it's pretty distributed, we can use it, and they can, the software is open source and they can certainly load data up to it. But what we've done is we've created this incentives layer in the middle that we pay a whole bunch more out to storage providers to serve just our data. And so what will happen is we will essentially, well, we're currently doing it, it's working today, where we essentially set up a set of guidelines for our providers. And we say, look, if you stay in these guidelines, in other words, if your cost is within these guidelines, In other words, it's cost effective for us to use you as a storage provider. We'll pay you extra, because what we've done is, in the beginning of the project, there was, in the very Genesis block, a pre-mine, but the pre-mine was not dedicated to us as a team, or it's not, built for us. A lot of times pre-mines are dissed pretty heavily in crypto.
Yeah.
But in this case, the pre-mine is specifically to build our network and to pay the storage providers. So what happens is, we have these two big wallets, and over the course of, right now it happens on a 30-day plan, but it'll happen more organically as we go forward. But what happens is, people that adhere to our guidelines and serve up our data, they make this extra funding. And that extra funding can be really lucrative. And ultimately what happens is that passive income becomes truth because of that extra incentives layer that's on there. What's going to happen on a lot of these other projects, because they are all marketplace based, is it's going to be a lot like Bitcoin mining. It's going to redound down to the person that can provide the lowest possible cost, and so you're going to have people that will buy 10,000 of these things because they happen to have millions of dollars. And then one entity will scatter those around the globe and say, hey, we're decentralized. But it's one entity running this giant mining farm, right? Even though it is in, 90 different locations or scattered around the globe. And that's going to happen to a lot of the other storage networks that are out there. In our case, because we do have that incentives layer, we believe that our network will stay and become the most decentralized out of all the projects that are out there. We're already, by the way, number 3 in the big storage networks that are out there. People don't know this about us, by the way, because we're very early still in our thing, and we've not landed on any big exchanges yet. We've not really focused on that. But if you look at a chart right now comparing storage networks, true storage networks, I'm excluding Chia because they don't actually offer storage. They're just using it for consensus.
Yeah.
It's FileCoin, Storage, then us. That's pretty crazy because nobody's heard of us yet.
Well, it just sounds like an amazing opportunity. That's what it sounds like to me. I mean, the sooner you can get in. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's so awesome. And explain just this piece to me, make sure I got this right. You're not essentially rewarding people for how much they provide. You're also, you're not only rewarding people for the data that they're storing, you're also rewarding people for the data, the storage data, like the amount of storage they're actually providing. Is that right?
It's actually, so we're rewarding them for the data they provide. So I upload data to you, and then at the end of 30 days, I ask you for a random cryptographic proof. You provide it to me to verify that you've held the storage for 30 days. You haven't done anything crazy with it. Once I, with a smart contract, can verify that, then it gets logged up to the blockchain and you get paid. So I'm paying you for the holding the storage. So that's number one. And that does work on kind of a marketplace mechanism.
Yeah.
But on top of that, I'm also paying you for some desirable characteristics. I'm paying you for performance. I'm paying you extra incentives for geolocation. I'm paying you extra incentives for uptime. So right now, uptime is the biggest one because we really want to encourage you to do a great job. So if you set one of these devices up, or you can build your own, you can put a Raspberry Pi together, you can build a big storage server, you can put any manner of devices together to host storage on our network. But as long as you're very much online all the time, and right now 95% uptime is the number we really focus on, gives you a couple hours per month to turn the machine down for upgrades or cleaning or whatever you need to do. But as long as you adhere to that 95% uptime, which means put the thing in a closet and forget about it. Don't become a hobbyist and spend all your time. Oh, if I upgraded this, if I do this, and we have that a lot, by the way, on our network, because tweakers like to tweak.
Yeah.
But the deal is, if you can just forget it, put it in a closet and forget it, and maintain that uptime, we're going to pay you extra money. If you're in a place we really need you, so like here's a good example. We sold a couple of these devices last week into Hawaii because there's no storage providers currently in Hawaii. So that person's going to gain a couple of extra, coins every month on incentives just because they're in a place where we don't have a lot of other providers. And at some point, we're going to really start getting into some really weird esoteric, countries and places. And we'll even get into places and things like, right now, like FileCoin's having challenges in China because they banned the crypto mining. We could ultimately get into a situation where we pay so much in incentives to people in China because we want those networks to be there, that they do whatever they have to do to get around the great firewalls that are erected in front of them. So we're paying for that. And the last one, which I think is the most interesting, is compliance regimes. So, this is a place where blockchain and crypto people are really going to run into problems. But like in the EU, they have this GDPR thing right now, and a lot of things that corporations can't back up their data outside of the confines of the EU. They have to stay within those confines. We can do that easily. Medical data. Let's say something like HIPAA, which is this standard that doctors and patients want their data be like ultra protected. It has to be under really heavy guard so the patient data doesn't sneak out into the wild. Well, that has to be auditable. And to do that, what we end up doing is putting a little extra software on the machine so that the machine itself can be audited on a regular basis. And we might have to dox you, right? We might have to get your creds into our system so that we can feed those back to verify that you are who you say you are and holding the data you say you're holding. But here's the thing. If you're willing to go that distance, if you're willing to dox and you're willing to put that software into, ensure your machine stays locked down, you're going to make a lot of extra money because that data is worth more, right?
Yeah,
Those people will pay a lot more for that data. So we've kind of got like the soup to nuts product solution rolled out. And in my view, it's one of the very few things that truly works on the blockchain, and it really does.
Yeah, no, you're dead on. Like, I'm super excited about this. I mean, I posted something on Twitter a few days ago in regards to, hey, I got something coming my way, and I was only one person guessed that it was actually one of your units. So I'm super excited to get this thing plugged in and get it going because I mean, I totally see the future. And again, it's that whole early adoption thing. Like you said, you're actually building the network right now. I'm guessing you have more storage space available than you're actually dishing out. Is that right?
Yeah, in fact, and that's sort of purposeful. All the data that's on the network right now is testing data, and by the way, I actually saw your unit on the factory floor just this morning, and it should be actually going out in UPS today. But
awesome.
Like for instance, right now with these units, so let's take this unit behind me right now, which is a 64 terabyte model. This unit's selling for $3,500, which
it wasn't available to buy. I tried it. What happened?
I'm telling you, man, it's like the minute they hit the shelves, they fly off. But the deal is that we actually turn around and we rebate back 42% of that $3,500. So what ends up happening is by the time you're all said and done, you're only going to pay about $2,000 for that, which is about the same as what you would pay if you went out and just bought all the raw components. But then you also get the storage manager software that runs on top of it. And so it truly does become a plug and play, set and forget type of the environment. And you're going to ROI really quickly because of that rebate money that's coming back into your, wallet automatically over the course of the next year. The reason we did it that way, by the way, with a rebate is because we want to kind of lock you in for a year. We don't want what happens on these networks is you get a lot of churn, right? You get a lot of people that stand up on one network and then they say, oh, hey, the grass is greener over here. Let's go and stand up over here for a month and a half. And then we'll move over to this. And so you have to have mechanisms in place that really want to incentivize people to stick around for the long term. I mean, these units are built to last 5 years or better. It's not going to be like buying a Bitcoin miner where, you ROI in 8 months and then in 10 months, the miner's bricked because the next generations come along and, turn it into nothing. These units will continue to provide valuable, incentivized storage for 5, maybe even 10 years. We'll see. We do use in the units, we use all enterprise grade hard drives. So like this is one
awesome.
We're using a lot right now. This is a 5-year warranty drive. So as long as, the drive fails within that time period, what's going to end up happening? You're going to get a replacement sent out. You can buy this thing called Xcare from us, which will have us overnight the drive to you. So you can be up and running immediately. It's a beautiful model.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I actually have about 10 or 12 hard drives in my garage right now that I was actually planning on let me put one of my own together and start rolling this stuff out. And I worked on it and I'm like, I just don't have the time. There's just so much that I'm doing. And then I just went on the website and it's like, this just makes sense. Let me just go ahead and buy it. I mean, if the rebate is this high, it just totally made sense.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that's what they want. Like, they don't have the time to tinker. They don't have the time to put stuff together. They just want to be able to do that, plug and play, like plug it in and start mining. That's the idea. That's what a lot of people are looking for. And by doing that, I mean, you get to reach so many more people. And I'm really excited about what you guys are putting together here.
We went through, we had a video go up that we were completely unaware of. And because you've mentioned helium, we've really kind of tried to emulate in some ways what the helium folks did in the early days. We're probably like helium was back in, late 2019, maybe early 2020 or somewhere along those regards. That's how early we are. And the situation is that we didn't go out and do a bunch of marketing yet like they did. They used to they marketed very heavily in the early days. And we haven't yet started that. We're fully intending to, but some guy did an unboxing video or actually he didn't even have the unit. He just did a passive income sort of understanding. And the next thing we knew, there were 500 people waiting on a wait list to buy these 64 terabyte units. And we started grinding through the wait list. We've worked it down pretty good, but what we're getting hung up on, and look, there's just no hiding this, we're hung up on the global supply chain issues right now. It's very difficult to get processors for these things. It's very difficult to get volume motherboards and componentry that will run inside these things. And so we're really working through all that. But what's happening is as we get new units and components in, they're just flying off the shelves. Awesome. So the good news is the people that are getting in there are benefiting a little bit from that because the coin price is appreciating for them, and ultimately, what looked like might be a 9 or a 12 or 13-month ROI, for some cases it's turned into they've already ROI'd.
That's awesome. That's so good. That's so awesome. Well, but I like the fact that you're still incentivizing to like hang on because of that rebate, right? Like, I'm the type of person, if I get a miner and people have made fun of me, like, oh, you bought a miner that's like way less profitable now, like, so what? I'm not pulling my coins out. They're staying there. Like, when I get into projects, I'm there for the long term. And this just seems like a no-brainer. Like, it's an easy set it and forget it for 5 years. Like,
I doubt that we're going to run into some of the problems that big networks run into. Like, well, let's take Chia, for example, as an example, because a lot of people put a lot of money into drives and equipment to do it. And they built a giant network. I mean, hats off. It's fascinating to see the success that they've had. But at the end of the day, what happens is the more people that show up, the less valuable it becomes doing that. And in our case, because we're actually hosting this valuable service that is not only growing, but it's growing exponentially, and it's forecasted to continue to grow in ways over the next 2 decades that just really are mind-boggling. I don't think we're going to hit that saturation. It's going to take a long time. So I think 5 years from now, you're going to be able to look back at the data that you're storing and serving on these networks, and you won't be earning any less than you're earning when you start out. Now, in the beginning, there's going to be some earnings you're going to get from the coin price changes, the coin volatility that you probably won't see 5 years from now when things become a lot more stable. But just the passive income part of it and just earning good, solid income every month, I don't think stops 2 years out or 3 years out. I think it's going to continue. And I really think that storage is that one thing that can provide that sort of magic recipe. Whereas, consensus mining, you're always going to end up in that place where it's lowest common denominator, and you're always going to end up having something get bricked in the end. And I don't think these things get bricked.
No, it totally makes sense. I mean, I have a NAS server from 7 years ago, and I've upgraded multiple times because I need more storage, and I need more storage, and I need more storage, and I need more storage. So I totally understand that, and I agree with you completely. So let me ask you one last question. What did I not ask you that you think is really important for people to understand about the project?
Well, I mean, we kind of touched on it that we're really early. The community is very small. We're currently only on a small coin exchange, so being able to acquire assets to use as collateral on these machines, and to be able to sort of, there's a lot of personal touch in it right now, because we are still fairly small as a community. You can reach out and talk to anybody on our team pretty much at any point in the day. You can get help from pretty much any time of the day and very quickly. I hope we can maintain that going forward as we grow, because the growth has started to happen for us, and we've been kind of ready for it, but it's still taking us by surprise how fast people are coming, into the community. So I think that's the one thing right now, and I don't know how it's going to play out over the next 2-3 months. I don't even know where we are necessarily. Crypto itself, people are starting to talk, are we getting ready to head back into another bear market, right? Are we about done with this current bull cycle? And I think in our case, I don't think any of that applies. I don't think bear bull matters to us, because we're building this product. We need this product out there. The customers need this product. And what the coin does is whatever the coin does, but the product itself, very viable and should be viable going forward, bear bull, whatever kind of market we're in.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. I completely agree with you there. Well, thank you, Kenneth. I really appreciate your time. Thanks for giving a little bit more insight into this whole thing. I don't share stuff out unless I'm actually getting involved myself. And I've mentioned that to people time and time again. And this is something I can definitely get behind.
We're really excited to have you aboard on the network, and thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you again. Take care.
Cool. Have a good one.
All right. So bottom line, what I can tell you is that he's just a good dude, man. Like, I'm just pumped to have people like that running a project that is going to be extremely profitable for them, hopefully, but for everybody else involved as well. I like the product that they're putting out. I mean, I showed you that they were using premium quality materials, from fans to hard drives with long-term warranties, and I got a little bit of pushback from a few people saying that, oh, this thing it's not available. So let me talk about two things. So this point number 3, which is the earning potential that I want to share with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Here we go. So this is where you buy it, the XA miner, and you go to buy it in the store, and you get these 3 options here. I'm going to go to the most expensive one, which is the 64 terabytes. They did enable the wait list email option, and I've told you guys how I love the fact that these guys are not pre-selling units that they can't fulfill. They're saying, hey, give us your email and we're going to let you know as soon as we get them. You're going to get an email with the information about it. That's how I think this stuff should be done. This is how it should work. Don't pretend that you have stock and sell thousands upon thousands and make millions of dollars not to fulfill the orders. That's messed up. That's not how you do things. But so first and foremost, that's what it is. Secondly, somebody said that I can't pay $3,500 on a NAS unit. It's too much money. That's where I want you guys to see the actual numbers. And I don't know if they're not really focusing on marketing. I can tell you that right now, because that number should be crossed off with a little number next to it, because right down here, you see there's a 42.5% rebate. It comes out to $2,010 because they're going to credit you back with tokens. So it's not really, $3,500. It's more like $2,000. So it's, $1,500 back in tokens, which I think it's a great idea because it motivates people to, hold the tokens and things like that. So don't think that it's that high of a number. Now let's talk earnings. And these earnings here that I want to share with you, they are, estimated earnings. So right now it's not live. So, and they say this, network's currently young and users still increasing. Please refer to realistic usage data amounts here. So how do I get over $100,000 a year? Well, with a 64 terabyte unit, that's the earning potential. And if I pull up a calculator and you go 8980 times 12, there you go. There's over $100,000. And again, this is early for the network. So 2 things are going to happen. You're not going to be able to host as much usage as of right now. Correct. Which is why I said potential. But if a unit costs $2,000 after that rebate, and you can earn up to $9,000 a month, like, to me, that's a no-brainer. And it's only a no-brainer because of the fact that I actually believe in the project, right? Like, that's the thing you got to look at. Like, does it actually make sense? And they're really upfront with stuff, and I love that about them. They're not overselling products that they can't, fulfill. So they're really in line with, what they believe in. And here's the storage network, details. So there's only 400 active nodes right now, and 337 terabytes being used. So I completely understand that. Yeah, you're not going to be able to fill, a 64 terabyte unit right now because of the number of people in the network. But I'm okay, because I think this thing is actually going to take off rather quickly, and I want to be ready for when it does, because whoever is ready earlier gets the benefit tremendously, and that's my goal. That's what I'm looking at. So pretty exciting stuff, and you can see that the network usage has been increasing over time here, and I think the trend is just going to keep going that way. Again, super bullish about this project. Smash the like button if this was beneficial at all. I know it's a little bit of a longer video than I normally do, but I didn't want to cut anything. This conversation that I had was too fun for me to say, oh, you know what, let me just cut it out. No. I wanted you guys to actually hear from Kenneth and hear the things that he had to say. So thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate the support, and I will see you all on the next video. Take care. All right, let's do that drawing because I don't want to forget. Here we go. So this is the last video. Watch out, FileCoin, blah, blah, blah. So we go to the comment picker, and I'm doing filter comment based on a specific text. Passive income, get YouTube comments. I'm actually going to do one more giveaway info for you guys here in a second. All right, how many comments I got? 96 comments. And close that. Start. Passive income. Oh, I love it. Donald Terpak. Bro, super excited that you won. Just come on over to the Discord and I will make sure to get you an NFT. Now, I said that storage was the keyword for the video at the beginning of the video, but if you made it all the way to this part and you're like faithful to this, I'm gonna do a second drawing. So instead of just storage, if you type in decentralized storage, so 2 words, right? Don't do the hashtag because that's not gonna pick it up, but decentralized storage. I'll do an additional one for you all faithful ones that stick until the very end. Yeah, I'm gonna leave it here. I got some exciting stuff coming up, working my butt off to make it happen, but it's all worth it. Thank you all so much, and I'll see you on the next video. Take care.